I call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Northfield Public School Board. Today is Monday, September 8th, 2015, and the time is 7 p.m. Dr. Hillman, there are a number of items in the table file.
Yes, Madam Chair, in the table file you'll see a slight alteration to our recommended motion for the proposed 2015 pay 2016 property tax levy. MDA had run a new projection on Friday that changed it by $25.75 total. We thought we should make sure we were as accurate as possible. In addition, we also have an item for individual action regarding the Minnesota State High School League Foundation grant for student participation. This is an annual grant that we apply for and need the board to pass a resolution. Finally, we also have our standard personnel items with appointments, increase, decrease, changes in assignment. We have some resignations and also the superintendent contract provisions for the 2015-16 contract year.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's no objection, we'll add these items to the agenda as we move forward. Okay, we now have an opportunity for public comment. This is a chance for members of the district to address the board. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Okay. All right, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Board members, you have in your packet minutes for the regular school board meeting held on September 14th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Ellen, second. Second by Rob. Okay, is there any discussion or questions? No? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes for the regular school board meeting held on Monday, September 14th, 2015, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to announcements and recognitions. Dr. Hillman.
Yes, I have a few here tonight. First, we're pleased to announce that Northfield High School has 3 National Merit semifinalists this year. They are Olivia Riggins, Clark Onzorg, and Audrey Kornkoven. And we also have 7 commended scholars. These students are Dimitri Beebe, Jasper Egge, Will Cruz, Sebastian Lawler, Hannah Lundstrom, Hannah Marr, and Ben Wang. And of course, we'd like to congratulate these students and their parents, and the high school will be hosting a reception for these students and their families before the board meeting on Monday, November 23rd. The reception will begin at 6:15 p.m. so that the board meeting can start at its normal 7 o'clock time. So again, really excited about having these students recognized for their academic achievement. This afternoon, I had a chance to attend a session here at Northfield High School regarding the collective impact efforts in Northfield. And I think, Ellen, you might have had a chance to visit with them earlier in the day. I was here in the stop that they had to visit the torch office, and it was a pretty good crew of people. It was Representative Paul Thiessen, Representative David Bly. I understand Senator Dahl had attended earlier in the day. The portion of the meeting that I attended was with our torch students talking with these representatives. It included philanthropist Kate Mortensen, Sandra Samuels, who's the executive director of the Northside Achievement Zone, and also representatives from the Growth and Justice Coalition who helped us get our Collective Impact Coalition going here in Northfield. And so our torch students actually had a chance, both middle school and high school, actually had a chance to talk to these state leaders about their experience and what an impact the torch had made on them. And of course, Marty Thompson and Susan Sanderson, Teddy Gelderman, and Kim Horner just did a great job representing the district and preparing the students. It was some very heartfelt testimony from kids about the great things that they're experiencing here at Northfield High School with the support of the torch program. So that was fabulous. And then finally, as you know, obviously I am not Chris Richardson, so Dr. Richardson isn't here this evening because he's in Duluth attending the MASA Fall Conference. And as we know earlier today, Dr. Richardson was honored for his exemplary school leadership and a lifetime of balanced achievement inside and outside of education as the recipient of the prestigious MASA Polaris Leadership Award. And I know that as much as the Twitterverse explodes for superintendents, the 7 or 8 people who tweeted from the conference, that's an explosion in MASA speak, and a number of nice photos and some very complimentary words about Dr. Richardson's speech. So again, I know I join all of you in congratulating him yet again on this prestigious honor. And that is all we have this evening.
Wonderful. Is there anything anyone would like to add? I would like to add just one thing. Last Tuesday, the Northfield Area Chamber of Commerce invited Dr. Richardson to present State of the Schools at a luncheon event that was well attended by chamber members, and it was really exciting to have the opportunity to talk about all the great things going on in our schools, and there were some really excellent questions by chamber members. So it was a really great opportunity for us to tell the community, some who may or may not even have kids in our schools, about what's happening in the school district. So it was a really great event. Okay. So with that, we will move on to, we have no items for discussion in our report, so we'll move on to items for individual action. The first being proposed 2015 pay 2016 property tax levy. As a reminder, there was a, there was a packet in our, or information in our packet, and then there was an update, and then an update in our table file. So Dr. Hillman and Val Mertsdorf.
As usual, I do the talking and Val does the actual work. It's a good arrangement for us. That was a joke. Thanks. So it's that time of the year where we're talking about our property tax levy. It's amazing to think about that, as it really certainly signifies getting into the procedures that we use for next school year's budget here in late September. So we just want to remind you a little bit about what the levy is that we're looking at tonight and what it does for us. Remember that the levy provides about 22% of our overall budget. We are still heavily financed by the state, but our local levy does compromise about 22% of our budget. The levy that we're asking to approve tonight includes both voter-approved levies, so for like our operating levy, our capital projects levy, the buildings that we get bonded for, as well as the state-authorized levies. And of course, what this does is it allows us to provide the really quality educational programming that we've come to expect here in Northfield. And so the local property tax levy is a big deal for us. It's a significant part of our funding, and it's the time to do the preliminary approval of it tonight. So Val, would you just want to review the timeline here quickly?
So the timeline, obviously September 30th is when we need to certify. We are certifying at the max. We can then take between September 30th and December to under levy if we chose to do that. Basically, we certify by September 30th, and then the county takes that information, compiles it with the county's levy and the city's levy, and any other miscellaneous levies, and then they calculate the property tax statements, which have to be mailed out by November. Then we will come back at our December 14th meeting and have our truth and taxation meeting, where we have to allow for public comment on it, but it can be part of a regular meeting, and we certify our final amount at that point, and that amount goes, and then that'll show up on your official 2016 property tax statement.
And what we always think is just a little confusing about the language that's in the levy is that we're calling this for pay 16, so that it's actually taxes collected from January to December, but it actually really does a lot of the funding for our budget year of 2016-17. And so we just like to point that out. When we talk pay 16, we actually collect the taxes in 2016. However, they're really spent with the 16-17 school year. And then remember that the state has up to 3 years to make any adjustment that it needs to make on any of our 3 years of previous levies. And so they go back and they're just making sure that our student counts are accurate and all those kinds of things tie out. And so just remember that this year's levy does include adjustments from the previous 3 years as well. Sometimes those are adjustments that go up, sometimes they're adjustments that reduce the levy. So as you see our proposed pay 16 property tax levy, you're going to notice that the largest portion is the general fund referendum. We have general fund other. There's our general debt service fund. It's a very small portion for the capital levy, and then community services comes in at 3%. We just like to show this to you how it divides out. So this particular slide is just showing you a number of different subtotals. So you're basically seeing that our total levy that we're asking you to approve, the preliminary levy for tonight, is $15,548,102.12. And really this is just a couple of different ways of looking at it. You're going to see at the top, it's a summary by the fund. And so you'll see how the general fund, the community services fund, and the general debt service fund plays out. You'll also see the increase and decrease there. Once you notice that our general debt service fund went down pretty significantly this year. That's due to really two major areas. One, we did pay off a 2006 bond that helped with some roofs. And then also, this is where we're still seeing the impact of the refunding of the bonds that we've done over the years. And just a reminder, that's when we essentially refinance our debt to take advantage of a lower interest rate. What that does, it does save our property taxpayers dollars in the long run. You'll also see the way that we put it out here by the truth and taxation category. So we're showing the division between voter approved and other being the state authority. And then of course you also see the piece here, those components by referendum market value and net tax capacity. You have anything to add on that slide, Val? This is the most detailed slide that we have. One of the pieces that you'll notice in the, as we look at the general fund, you're going to see the pretty significant increase there, and a lot of that has to do with the new long-term facilities maintenance revenue program that we've talked to you about a couple of times. That funding is coming in that manner. That's why we're seeing the increase to the general fund and then a decrease in the debt services for the pieces that I had mentioned just before here. So we like to show you what our previous levy certifications are at, and so this is kind of a history here. And essentially, again, this year, we are looking to certify at about 0.2% lower than we did last year. I think most of us could call that flat, but it's lower, so we like to say that it's down by 0.2%. You can see our history, and you'll notice the increase in the year where we passed the operating levy. That was the significant increase this year, that year. You look at the pay 13, you might recall that was when we did some under levying for our OPEB or other post-employment benefits responsibility. And then you see we've been relatively consistent then over the last couple of years, again, trying to make sure that we have minimized ups and downs in that particular process. So again, I've noted these notable changes about the long-term facilities maintenance revenue. One thing that it was very minimal that it came in, but you will know that Dr. Richardson certainly championed the fact that the Uniform General Education Levy had been brought back in the previous legislative session. It only got us, I think, about $80,000 is what it generated for us. And they're already choosing to phase that out. And so it was a piece that was supposed to help across the state in terms of providing some additional dollars for districts. And the Uniform General Ed Levy was really a big deal before Jesse Ventura's big plan. If you talk to Chris about that, he's got his take on that process. We were happy to have seen it come back, even very small, but it is being phased out. And then, of course, the debt service reduction. So at the end of the day, what we're asking you to approve is the preliminary pay 16 levy that's 0.2% lower when compared to pay 15. Remember that we've also got that referendum inflationary factor on our operating levy that plays a role. The long-term facilities maintenance revenue, that's again combining health and safety and the deferred revenue and the alt facilities bonding categories. We paid off that 2006A capital facilities bond, and while it's an overall slight reduction in the levy, what it does is it does provide us a lot more flexibility with the money that we do have, because the debt service obviously was just paying off the debt, where the new long-term facilities maintenance revenue program gives us some flexibility in preventing erosion to our facilities. So while we're right about the same, we actually have quite a bit of greater flexibility in terms of the dollars that are coming into the school district. So with that, we would offer an opportunity for any questions that you might have. Again, what we're asking for is certifying the levy at the max, which right now is the $15,548,102.12 to be precise. And on Friday it had gone down $25.75, which is why you have the new information in your packet. Val, anything else to add?
Just that MBE does have the ability to change this amount based on data that they're getting in feedback. They typically get feedback that there's a calculation error in the system because it is a 38-page document that's basically all calculations. So while this is the amount it is right this second, it may be slightly different than what we certify in December, but it should not be very different at all. So just
and that's why we do a preliminary.
It's a moving target.
Right, since this, board members, this is an item for individual action, so I ask for the motion. Superintendent's recommendation is to certify to county auditors the 2015 payable 2016 proposed certified net tax levy in the amount of $15,548,102.12. Is there a motion to approve? So moved by Noel. Second? Second by Ellen. Okay, any discussion or questions?
So the message to the community would be that what we can expect at this point is that the levy that from their property tax, that they would stay either the same or drop a little bit, but they probably won't see a huge fluctuation. Is that?
Well, I think the key thing is we're talking about two different things when we're talking about the district's levy and individual homeowners' taxes. Mm-hmm. So the levy itself, when we look at the big picture of what the district is levying the community, it's down 0.2%. However, there are many factors that go into a homeowner's taxes.
Or rural.
Exactly. whatever the category is, it is an impact of the valuation of their home, their overall tax bill, of course, based upon what the county or city does. But when we look at this particular piece, it's not a guarantee that a particular individual homeowner's taxes would go down for the school district by 0.2%. It's the overall levy, and I really appreciate you bringing up. That's a common misconception that we hear sometimes, where people hear us certify the levy at the max at 0.2% reduction, and thinking that they're going to see a corresponding reduction in their own home. But there are many other factors that go into that we do not have the authority over.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So we will be back again in December for the truth in taxation. Okay, good. Thank you. All right, we will move on to an item that was added in the table file for individual action, which is the Minnesota State High School League Foundation grant for student participation. Dr. Hillman?
This particular grant application is something we ask for on an annual basis, and basically it's to help offset some of the fees that our students pay here for activities. It's a grant piece from the Minnesota State High School League, and it does require a board resolution. So standard, we've done this for a number of years. The intent of the grant is to help offset some of the cost for activities fees to our lower income students, and what we do is we ask you to consider this for as a resolution this evening.
Okay, thank you. I will read the resolution, and then Danita will, or roll call vote. Oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion. Let me read the resolution, and then we'll ask for a motion. Thank you, Danita. Okay, so the Minnesota State High School League Foundation grant for student participation, the resolution reads as follows. Whereas the Minnesota State High School League Foundation was formed to provide support for Minnesota's high school youth to participate in athletics and fine arts. Whereas the School Board of Independent School District number 659 recognizes the value of student participation in extracurricular activities, and whereas the Minnesota State High School League Foundation is offering grants and funding to assist school districts in recognizing, promoting, and funding extracurricular participation by high school students in athletic and fine arts programs. Therefore, be it resolved that the Northfield School Board supports the district's application to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation for a Form A grant to offset student activity fees. Superintendent's recommendation, motion to approve the resolution as presented. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Jeff, second? Second by Rob. Okay, any questions or discussion? No? Okay, we'll move to roll call vote.
Hardy?
Aye.
Iverson?
Aye.
Quinnell?
Aye.
Stratmon?
Aye.
And Pritchard.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Okay, so we will move now on to the consent grouping. As a reminder, there were a number of personnel items in the table file to be added to the consent grouping. Is there anything anyone would like to pull from the consent grouping? Okay. Is there a motion to approve this grouping? Moved by Ellen, second. Second by Noel. Any discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent grouping say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to items for information. In your packets was the 2016-17 proposed school year calendar. Dr. Hillman?
As you know, we have attempted for a couple of rounds now to get a year out on our school calendar so that families can plan. We know that we've had a lot of feedback about people needing to bid on vacation very early and those kinds of things. Last January, our Meet and Confer Committee evaluated two calendars, the 15-16 calendar that we're in right now and the 16-17 calendar for next year. As you recall, we passed the 15-16 calendar because we're using it right now. And then we held on to the 16-17 calendar with a hope that maybe the legislature would give us some flexibility on start dates and those kinds of things as time moved forward. As we know, they did very late for the 15-16 school year, beyond the time where we think we could have made any adjustment for this past fall. So now what we do is we bring the 16-17 calendar forward for you to just consider. We're going to ask you to vote on it at the next meeting. But again, it maintains the district's interests of the 187 contractual teacher contract days, 174 student contact days, And then basically with a post-Labor Day start of September 6th, 2016, hard to think about that already, and completing on June 6th of 2017. You'll also notice that this proposed calendar has days built in, or days identified as potential snow makeup days should we have a tough winter during 16-17 like we've had for the past couple of years. One other note is that you'll just notice with some of the changes in our teacher contract this time around, we have very clearly identified the difference between items called teacher preparation days and staff development days. In the past, those were highlighted as teacher work/workshop days, and just through our work with the Northfield Education Association, we're just very clearly identifying what are days that are for teacher preparation, what are days for staff development. So those are the highlights of the contract, or excuse me, of the calendar. And we offer it to you just for your information, and we'll again ask you to consider it formally at the next board meeting.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments? Yes, Rob.
Just looking at the different quarters, there's the first quarter ends on November 7th with this teacher preparation day. And the third quarter ends on March
17th.
Okay, and then there's a spring break, and then there's the last day of spring break is the 27th with the teacher preparation day.
Correct.
I'm just noticing that the second quarter ends on the 26th, and the teacher preparation day falls sort of outside of that quarter. It's just different. It's a different pattern, so I was just wondering why that is. Why is it not on, just so to get it on a Friday?
In this particular case, it's not only because it's on a Friday, and truthfully, the day preceding that teacher preparation day is really the last day of the quarter. In this case, it's at the end of the first semester, is why it's designated just a little bit differently. But essentially, those teacher preparation days really fall the first day after each quarter. And so you'll see if you look at November, like you've identified November 7th, the end of the first quarter is on the 4th. When we look at in January, the end of the second quarter is on the 26th, with then just that next immediate day being the 27th. And then following with that, again, March 27th coming right back after the end of the quarter on the 17th. And then finally, there's not a teacher preparation day at the end of the fourth quarter.
Okay, yeah.
Does that help?
Yep.
I think it's just the way the L looks. It looks a little different.
The little bracket.
Yep.
Around the 4th of November and the 8th of November, and then the 7th is kind of squished between the two. So.
Ellen.
I just wanted to make a comment about Rob's question. So from what I recall from the Incofer, when we talked about it, one of the things we liked about the fact that there was this teacher preparation day on Friday was that otherwise in the past in January you have a couple Mondays off. We still work because of the second, but some of the student activities that may only be on Mondays or
special schedule is a big deal. Yep.
At the elementary level, that it was kind of nice to not have that happen. So.
And the other question I guess I have is, every year we have a resolution about Columbus Day. Does this presuppose that that resolution will pass and it's not a holiday for the school district?
I think that's a fair question, and typically we approve the calendar, if I'm correct, well before we actually take that resolution for Columbus Day. So if you look at, I think we typically do the resolution for Columbus Day in July or August, if I'm correct. And typically we have passed the calendar well before it. So we'd be using the same process that we have done before, which I would say, to answer your question, yes, it does presuppose that we're going to have Columbus Day as a school day. Good clarification, though.
That's a great question. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, again, as Dr. Hillman mentioned, we will present this for board approval at our next board meeting. So, future meetings, Monday, October 12th and Monday, October 26th, both at 7 p.m. in the High School Media Center. With that, I ask for a motion that we adjourn. Adjourned, moved by Jeff, second by Noel. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.